Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again. I'm Elizabeth Voss, Editor-in-Chief at Despair Media, here on Unity 4J Vigil with Christian Zaldivar, who is an integral member of the Internet Party. He is a supporter of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, and he's been not only a part of our tech team and a real support in that area, but also he has been a translator with us as well. And so we really appreciate all of your contributions, Christian. Can you explain for the readers and the listeners and those watching for us how it is that you became a supporter of WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, and also how you became involved in the Internet Party?
Well, hey everyone. First of all, I first became involved in, the efforts. Oh, hold on a
Not a
second. I'm
problem.
sorry.
Not a problem at all. I think, Christian, are you back?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Awesome. So I'd really like for our audience to hear how you became involved, a supporter of WikiLeaks, but also involved with the Internet Party.
Well, it was really just by chance. In our Twitter group DM that two of the, actually three, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting people's involvement here. But
Not a
in
problem.
a group DM that we had amongst our YouTube circle, Fly had sent an urgent message saying that he had needed somebody to help with graphics and other tasks as well when Julian's power got shut off the first time. And so I immediately stepped in. I did a quick edit of a graphic that he had provided, putting some text in there, really just on my phone, using only my phone. And from then on in, he invited me to the Internet Party Discord, where I met and got more involved with you guys, you, Liz, Susie, everybody. And things just sort of progressed from there, where I'm doing graphics, doing translations, helping with videos, and just seeing how I can help the cause in every and any which way that I can.
Yeah, and I also want to say that there have been many times that Christian has offered to help that he didn't have to at all. And when I would say thank you, I'd add, is there any way that I can thank you in public? He said, no, I don't need that. I just wanted to help, and it's fine. So, and it's not just Christian. There are a lot of people at work in the Unity 4J movement and in the Internet Party arena that very much do so much work, and then they actually say, no, I don't want public thanks. So, for you and for everyone else that does the same thing, thank you from all of us. And I'm glad that we've been able to speak to Joe and yourself, because it's really helpful and important to give a face to those who spend so much of their time in these marathon streams helping us all. Whether it's translations or whether it's graphics or whether it's tech, it's all, extremely important and helpful. So.
Oh yeah, no problem. And obviously, thank you guys for having me on here. It's an honor, and thank you guys for bringing me in to help you guys. Like I said, in any and every which way that I can.
So, what are some of the? I know that you've put some graphics together. Is there anything else that you felt like? And I know you've done some translations. Was there anything that really struck home with you, like struck a chord with you, whether it was a graphic that you made or a translation that you did, or anything else like that?
I mean, just seeing the sheer number of people becoming involved in our Discord, and the passion and love and all the hard work that was already in place by people like you, Fly, Yvonne, the two Daves, the other Liz, and just seeing that I wasn't alone. I mean, you figure with such a basic cause as human rights that entails everybody. It's not partisan at all. It's not really political at all. It's, as it says, about human rights, about human beings and their basic sovereignty that should be provided and guaranteed to everybody, whether you're here in the US, in Australia, whether you're Democrat, Republican, whether you're white, black, brown, whatever, they're in the, they're just part of what a civilized society should be.
Absolutely.
And seeing all the actions taking place online and on the ground, I was a part of the June 19th vigil outside of the Ecuadorian consul in Manhattan, New York, and just to see the congregation of wide variety, a plethora of different people from different backgrounds, all coming together and coalescing to fight for the freedom of one man, which in turn is fighting for the freedom of all men, of all human beings. And that really hit home for me, that this was something that I had to get involved with more, do more, and try to get more people into this and awake to the fact that fighting for Julian's rights is fighting for all of our rights.
Absolutely. I think that is a huge point, and I'm so glad that that struck home with you. I know it does with me, and I know it does with a lot of people that are involved in this, but I'm glad that that's something that is effectively communicated by the efforts that everyone has put together.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's what helps me do more. It's an inspiration to see everything that everyone has done on here, whether it's little things like even just saying thank you and saying good job. It's encouraging from people who are just known from what they've done on Discord to people like Jimmy Dore and Ray McGovern and a lot of people who have done a lot. And everybody, listen, you don't have to be anything. You could do all the things that I have done so far. I've gone to vigils, I've done things online. This is stuff that is not impossible for anybody. It's possible for everybody. And anybody can step up and do it. Anybody can be a leader. And if you choose to step up and take action for this cause, for the cause of human rights, you are a leader. You are a hero.
I completely agree, and I think that echoes what both Ray McGovern and Christina Assange have said so often. Whether it's Ray McGovern saying we need to build arcs, not predict rain, or whether it's Christine saying we need warriors, not warriors. That's exactly the mentality that we hope that supporters will take. And I'm so glad that that you've really taken up the reins on that type of effort. That motivates me that we are that not just me but everybody, that the effort is actually helping people feel inspired and empowered that they can make a difference. But I want to ask as well, was there any point at which you let's say either believed any sort of disinformation or sort of inaccurate press coverage around Julian Assange, or what was it that helped you kind of bypass and see through that? Was there anything that clicked for you that kind of helped you throw that aside? Because I think part of what this movement is doing is really combating this public perception that has been kind of built through disinformation in many cases.
Well, in a few words, the Cloud of Murder video. That was what really hit me at my heart, because I have family who are veteran of the Vietnam War, and that person, my family member, lives with what that war did to them physically, emotionally, mentally. You're talking about a person who is still haunted by the things that they saw, the things that they did, the things that they had done to them. And this often manifests in night terrors and, hallucinations. And when I see people like Sean Westmoreland tell his story about his experience and how he became cognizant of what our military was really doing and the intent behind all of the military actions that have taken place really since after World War II by the U.S. military. Um, it's something that is really familiar, and it gets me to look more closely and become more involved in things like this. And when I first saw the Kalala murder video, that was the spark that really got me into and interested in Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. For Private Chelsea Manning to have leaked that along with the Iraq war logs and gone through all the things that she has, being tortured for years, all for just doing the right thing, it goes to show you how ass backwards our society is. I mean, tell me, I'll ask anyone who's listening now, and you, Liz, do you think that a society is just, a society is fair and good when we spend more money to kill people than to save people and care for them?
That is a brilliant question. I think that really is such an essential one that we have to face, because it's horrific when we see the amount of money that is spent on defense budgets just in 1 year, of like $1 trillion goes to defense. But obviously so much of that is tax money that all of us pay that ends up, as you say, killing people. It's mind-blowing. And to see, as you point out, the truth tellers like Chelsea Manning or the publisher of that truth like Julian Assange and WikiLeaks being punished for revealing the crimes. I mean, it's something that we, no matter how many times you say it, it still hits you in the face, because it's so literally true, and it's so, as you say, ass backwards. So I'm going to quickly check chat to see if they have any response to that, because I think the question was addressed to them as much as to me. So I'm just going to check to see what they say. Yeah, one commenter says, "Oh wow, nice to put a face with the call sign Christian," but also I think that it's definitely hitting home with a lot of people. What you're saying, I think you put that brilliantly. That is, and I hope that other people, maybe who don't have the same familial connections with people who have experienced war in the way that you have, but who nonetheless have empathy and can understand that this is something where American lives and American tax dollars are going to the most horrific purposes possible, and it's for no one's benefit other than, the plutocrats or the Raytheons of the world and the Lockheed Martins. So
Boeings and what have you. Yeah,
exactly.
But this is an empathy-driven movement. All movements like this are empathy-driven. They come from a deep sense of compassion, and that golden rule that I've told you about and I've spoken to Susie about, that treat others how you want to be treated. And hell, if I was in Julian's shoes right now, I'd be damn sure I want people speaking out on my behalf and trying to free me from what is literally a solitary confinement.
Absolutely. No, I think that's incredible. Go ahead.
No, it's torture. The man is being tortured, and we're not speaking about somebody who is, imagine this isn't some movie. This isn't some comic book. This is a real flesh and blood human being who has emotions, who has feelings. This is somebody's son. This is somebody's father. We need to speak up. We need to take action, and then we need to do more of it. Because if this can be done to one, it could be done to all. That's what I think, that realization is what drives most, if not all of us here. All the speakers that we've seen come on this vigil, everybody behind the scenes, everyone. It's that knowledge that if there is injustice in the world in one place, it can spread all over the world. It's not injustice, and corruption is not this self-contained thing in a bubble that will never escape that city or that country, that county, that region that it's inhabiting at the moment. No, it can spread. It's human nature. It's, again, going back to another trite saying, monkey see, monkey do. And speaking of that, it's been mentioned already many times by a lot of the panelists here, but what they're doing now and what they intend to do beyond the torture and the solitary confinement of Julian is to make an example out of him. It's to make sure that people think twice. People like Julian and Chelsea Manning and Barrett Brown and Jeremy Hammond, Edward Snowden, whistleblower, John Kiriakou, people who intend to blow the whistle on government's corruptions, whether it's, waste, fraud, and abuse. And they want to set that legal precedent where they can charge you just for practicing journalism, just for, in this country, in the US, which is what is a First Amendment right, freedom of the press, free speech as well. It's hard. We have to act, and we have to do more. Like I said before, any one of us that acts as a leader, anybody can lead, anybody. You don't have to be anything. Doesn't matter where you are, how much money you have, the color of your skin, nothing. Just take action. We're all human beings. This is a humanitarian cause. If you're human, you can stand up and you can fight. So fight.
Absolutely. I can't echo that sentiment strongly enough. I think that is such an important sentiment to remember, because I think that sometimes, and I've said, I don't mean to repeat myself 1,000 times, but I feel like one of the things that I hope does not happen when the amazing guests come on this panel and speak about either their experiences with Julian Assange himself, or the way that WikiLeaks has inspired them, etc. I hope that the viewers don't feel that only people with XY on their resumes are able to do things. You know what I'm saying? I think that what you're pointing out is incredibly important, and definitely something that needs to be hammered home to the audience, which is that every single person can make a difference, a real tangible difference, by fighting and by building figurative arcs, meaning by not sitting and worrying, but by actually taking easy action. And if you go to Christine Assange, her Twitter timeline, which is at Assange MRS, so at Assange Mrs., she has almost a constant stream of ways in which we can take action and help, whether that's by listing off NGOs to send letters to, whether it's various politicians. Whoever your representative is who you should be contacting constantly on Twitter, by the phone, via email, and telling them that you demand they protect Julian. And so sorry to kind of insert this infomercial into your segment, but I'm saying that because I want it to be something that we tag on to that brilliant way that you put, that all of us should be standing up for Julian Assange, because although he's not a whistleblower, he is a truth teller, and he represents the vehicle by which whistleblowers like Chelsea Manning are able to get their leaks and their information to the public. And so by making an example out of him, it is an attack on all of us, as you say. It is an attack on the entire public, to attack him and to attack, as they have made an example out of Chelsea Manning. So yeah, it is an important, it is incredibly important that people stand up for the one person that is standing up for all of us. Definitely. So definitely. I'm just
very eloquently there yourself.
Well, do you have, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just going to, I don't know if you have any thoughts in general on WikiLeaks that you'd like to share, in addition to what we've already discussed, or or thoughts on what you've seen Julian Assange go through in the press, where we see these ridiculous smears against him in terms of like, oh, he doesn't bathe or whatever. I mean, what do you think it says about the press that they have to go to that level of middle school ad hominem attack to try to bring somebody down? What do you think it says about them?
Well, it just shows how much of, to quote H.A. Goodman here, how much of a PR firm they are, how much of a public relations firm they are to the state, to the government, to the deep state, to the powers that be, all the corporations that run our government, all the politicians who are in their pocket, and so on and so on. To me, it's really indicative of how broken the media is when you have a guy standing in the middle of Washington, D.C. with a sign up, and he's getting pestered by another guy who says somehow an Ecuadorian and Australian citizen is a traitor to America.
Exactly. The mental loops you have to jump through to even come up with that. It's astounding. Yeah, and also, I think, as Jennifer Robertson, Julian Assange's legal representative, has often said, that it's so ridiculous that the United States would be attempting to say that the First Amendment only applies to Americans. I mean, what does this mean? Does this mean that they're going to go after people, journalists from the BBC, if they comment on WikiLeaks information? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But
yeah, those rights are undeniable. They're meant to be undeniable to anybody, whether you're as heinous as a person as, let's say, Hitler, or somebody as kind and warm as someone like Julian Assange, or people that have come in the past, like Martin Luther King Jr., who have fought for justice and equality for all human beings, not just for a particular sect or particular group, but for all of us. And this quote has been said before, and I think I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but none are free unless all are free. And I think that as long as you have people like Julian and like Jeremy Hammond and like Edward Snowden, Susie Dawson, people who are being persecuted and are being mistreated for doing what I consider to be probably one of the most patriotic things you could do, and that is to inform the public of a government's abuse of their trust, abuse of their tax dollars. And that to me is the ultimate symbol of how much you care. That to me is patriotism more. I mean, because anybody can stand up, say an anthem, sing a song, a hymn or whatever, and salute a flag, a piece of cloth. But it takes guts. It takes real fortitude and a real conviction and morals to stand up in the face of these gargantuan governmental machines that are in place to crush dissent and say, no, what you're doing is wrong and it has to be addressed. And if, God damn it, I have to be the one who does it, I will do it. Because if not me, who? If not now, when? And those are the thoughts that I carry with me when I go to, actions in public on the ground. And I'm sure other people do the same thing as well. It's not just me. This isn't about me. It's about us. It's about all of us. What Julian's plight represents is the struggle that we've always had against corrupt government, the corrupt state, right? The civilized society versus the state. And right now we are heading towards this crucial time. I mean, I think now already we're in the crucial time, but I think things are going to start to pick up more and more as the world is turning and as we're seeing how much corruption exists. and how much governments, agencies, corporations, and all that, how much they are slowly killing us all, killing the planet and killing us all. I think things are going to come to a huge head, and it's going to be a change, a gargantuan change, colossal change, and hopefully for the better. But we have to fight for that. It can't happen with us sitting on our ass watching Netflix all day. We have to get out. We have to talk to people. We have to get in touch with other people who are seeing the same things we see. And
Absolutely. Go ahead. Please finish your thought.
No, that was it. That was it.
But I think that what you're saying is something that must be emphasized as well, which is the importance of actions on the ground. I know that Julian Assange has been asking for boots on the ground. I know that's something that Susie Dawson definitely has wanted to emphasize when it comes to what we're doing with Unity 4J, that this is not intended to simply be an internet-based, it is organized on the internet, but it's not meant to stay on the internet. We definitely want to support and help people get organized to, really demonstrate in the street as much as possible. And I think right now what we're trying to do is to build the momentum to get a lot of people on the ground. As you said, it's not about just each one of us on the ground. It's about a mass of us showing up. But if you're in a place where you are the only person, that does not mean that you can't demonstrate. I mean, there was a woman in Australia recently who had her whistle and was blowing with her sign, and that is perfectly fine. So, as Christian says, just get out there and show up. I think there's a famous quote that says, 90-something% of life is just showing up. So, absolutely.
Yeah. And don't get us wrong. I think all that we have done online with video, images, and whatnot has had a tremendous impact. I think just from the sheer presence and the energy that we raised when the president of Ecuador, Lenin Moreno, was visiting in London, and amidst all of those rumors that Julian was soon going to be evicted, I think it helped him have second thoughts. And I think all the actions that we did partake in helped Julian stay in there, at least for the time being. So can you imagine what we could do if we showed up en masse by the thousands in the streets everywhere? US, Russia, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Mexico, wherever, Ecuador. Can you imagine the impact we would have? It's something that, again, it inspires you. It pulls you forward. I think that's one of the key things here. I don't feel like I have to force myself to do these things. I think I'm speaking on behalf of other people like me who have done things like this. It's this cause that just pulls at you. And it seems almost natural, instinctual to stand up and stand in the middle of Manhattan screaming, journalism is not a crime. Free Julian Assange.
Exactly. No, I think that sense of selflessness is something I've definitely seen you express a number of times, as you've helped in behind the scenes. But as you say, there are other people that have done the same thing. I've been blown away by the number of people who express that exact sentiment over and over again. I think that that selflessness is something that truly humbles me to witness, not with you and with other people as well. Truly, like I can't say that enough. It really does. And I think that empathy that you talk about this movement being based on is important. And I think that's a very genuine feeling that not only you describe, but other people have sensed as well. And I'm really proud that this movement seems to be continuing that as we move forward.
Yeah, same here. And hey, don't forget to include yourself in that, sister, because you definitely have shown selflessness.
Well, I think that, but specifically though, being on camera, having my name out there is different to somebody who helps behind the scene every day and doesn't have their name out there and doesn't have their image out there, who doesn't get people saying thank you, etc., but they do it anyway. And those people are integral to the functioning of the streams, of the vigils, of the Unity 4J Discord server, all of the efforts that are happening, and efforts that are unrelated to the Unity 4J stuff. All of the efforts that are going into helping, support Julian Assange and WikiLeaks are built from the ground up by by selfless individuals who are doing the right thing because they care, as Christian is talking about humanity, and they see Julian Assange as, one of us being persecuted, and therefore all of us being persecuted. And that is incredibly, a really essential message to this entire effort.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I think the greatest thanks we could ever get is success, is Julian's liberation. His having his sovereignty restored, where he can have freedom of movement and not have to worry about, governments extraditing him, putting him in jail for the rest of his life, and torturing him. I think that's really the biggest thanks we could ever get, is his freedom.
Absolutely. And I know that what his doctors have said, both in 2015 and just prior to him being cut off and isolated, was absolutely shocking. The degree to which he is unable to get medical care, it really does seem like an intentional effort to smoke him out of the embassy by allowing medical issues to degrade over time. Do you have any just thoughts on, even in comparison with the absolutely horrendous American prison system, there is supposed to be some level of medical care and some sort of certainty about the time at which there will be resolution to your case. Now, that does not happen in all cases by any means, but can you just maybe give us, your thoughts on the way in which Julian Assange, in some aspects of his current situation, are worse than what it would be if he were in prison?
Well, Cassandra Fairbanks said it on one of the vigils, that we treat our death row inmates here better than we treat Julian right now, and how he's being treated. And again, it's indicative of how the current system in place is so flawed and just so, to put it bluntly, fucked up. And that's why we need to work our asses off to change it. Because how long are we going to let this slide? How long are we going to allow this to continue to happen and build and build and build? We have to stand up. We have to fight. And just going back to all the stuff that you said, how there just seemingly mounting more and more pressure and obstacles in Julian's path, it's really horrible. The man has a shoulder injury. I think he has a torn rotator cuff, which is incredibly painful. I don't think he has any mobility where he can lift his arm up like over his head like that. He also has a cracked tooth that bothers him constantly, and that was from having food delivered to him and chewing on it, and to find out that somebody had placed a metal object in his food, which caused the chipping to occur.
While he was in prison. That was in Wandsworth prison.
While
he was in the UK prison in solitary confinement, they gave him the food and he bit down on it and it cracked the tooth. Apparently, that's from the medical records that you can find on wikileaks.org. They actually published those medical records from 2015. So that's where, you can find that story. It's horrendous. And it's not well known either. I'm glad you brought that up. It's something that not a lot of people are aware of.
But people should be aware of. And I want to tie it into how that kind of encircling that they're doing, that tactic where they're coming at him from any and all sides that they possibly can, that's what we need to do to the decision makers that can help restore his freedom. What we're doing now is just that. This vigil, the letters that we've written to Julian and to all our policymakers and our leaders, all the tweets we've sent to them, all the Facebook messages we've sent to them, all the times we've shown up at their doors, the times we've protested with rallies. That is the kind of multi-pronged strategy that we need to have success. That's what really, that kind of encircling strategy is a winning strategy. Because if you just come at this giant political apparatus in just one direction, you're going to get squashed no matter how many people you have. And that's what we have. We have the advantage in numbers. But like we see in the Battle of Thermopylae, for example, that was immortalized in the 300 comic and in the movie, how the Greeks were able to negate the Persians' overwhelming numbers that they had on just these 300 Greeks by isolating them so that they were only coming at them from the front. And so they were able to deal with them expertly. And that's a mistake that we have to avoid making. We have to come at them from every angle, all sides, and it has to be constant. We have to be in their faces. And that's how we're going to succeed. And we are succeeding because, like I said, the actions that we have already done have deterred Julian's rumored eviction from the Ecuadorian Embassy in London. So they feel the pressure. They're feeling the heat. We just got to crank it up some more.
I completely agree. I think that's a really fantastic parallel to draw between, an ancient historical event and what we're trying to do now. I completely agree. And I think that thankfully that is exactly what the Unity 4J Discord server is attempting to do. I mean, it's not just one type of effort, it's all sorts of different efforts, whether it's translation of these vigils, whether it's translation of important articles, compiling different media reports on Julian Assange. I mean, I can't even, Susie's done a statement of the movement address on the whole thing, but there is a huge diversity in the types of efforts happening. And I'm really glad that we're starting to, that has been developed. And I've said this before, but if you're also somebody who doesn't enjoy, collaborating, please do your own lone wolf effort. Just do something. It doesn't matter how or what, as long as you're doing something, it makes a difference.
Yeah, there's a famous Martin Luther King quote that I'm probably going to butcher, but I'll try my best to paraphrase it. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. And if you can't crawl, just whatever you do, do something. And that's what this is all about. Whatever you can do, do it.
And speaking of that, and the effort moving forward, no matter how it happens, just attempting. How do you see kind of the maybe immediate future of this movement moving forward? I know that we have to, we can't look at this in a long time span, unfortunately, because this is currently sort of an emergency situation. But moving forward, how do you see this movement developing in the next couple of weeks or a month or two?
Well, as I alluded to before, I think we're going to take heed and we're going to mount even more pressure than we already have. I think more people are going to be out in the streets, going by the examples of others who have been there already before, like those people like that lady in Australia that you mentioned who was there by herself with a mic, with a whistle.
It was brilliant whistleblowing. It was fantastic.
A whistle warrior. Yeah.
Yes.
There you go. And just go from there. I think from what I have seen personally on the streets in both New York City and in Washington, D.C., there are people that are yearning to come out and to join a movement like this where we can cast aside whatever other differences we may have, whether it's political or religious, anything, and unite in solidarity for something that if we do win, is going to be a victory for all of mankind. Julian's victory in that he has his freedom back would be, as Vivian Kubrick says, an immense feather in the cap of humanity. And that is what we all of us who are in this movement right now, and those of us who will join us, are going to be striving to do, to liberate this persecuted man who has done nothing but provide us a tremendous service. When I say us, I mean all of us, all of mankind. What he and WikiLeaks have provided to us, they are the gold standard. They are the gold standard of journalism, in my view, today. They have an unblemished record, 100% accuracy, as has been stated by you and other guests, Liz. And they give us the deepest, darkest secrets that governments and agencies and corporations don't want us to know. And they bring forth, they shed that light on it. They illuminate the dark. And they take away that corporate propaganda blindfold that has still so many walking around like zombies, really, and just going by what they see on TV. And it's so encouraging to see, just even now, the people that I have interacted with personally, online and in person, how such a wide range of the spectrum of people that are awakened and are awakening to this fact that the news that we see on television, the news that's provided us through radio and whatnot, they're corrupt. They're not on our side. And we have to change that. And again, I want to say thank you to people like you, Liz, at Independent Media, and your co-founder, William Craddock, people like HA, people like Jimmy Dore, Tim Black, Nico House, Jamal Thomas, John Kiriakou, Brian Becker, the list goes on and on.
Thank God it does. Thank God it is a long list that's getting longer. I'm so glad about that.
Yeah, but people like that who are taking the initiative and doing the job that our media is supposed to do, that our fourth estate is supposed to do. Like, again, I'm quoting a lot of people here today, but like Ray said, the fourth estate is mostly dead. It's not completely dead, but mostly dead. And if we ever have any hopes of reviving it and bring it to the ideal thing that we all envision it could be, we have to support organizations like WikiLeaks that bring us the truth and that actually practice journalism. WikiLeaks isn't a propaganda firm. They're not engaging in yellow journalism. They're engaging in the core values of journalism and the ideal vision of what a fourth estate is supposed to provide to a civilized society. And if we allow WikiLeaks to fall, then that's another pillar, that's another foundation to the society that falls along with it. And we can't let that happen.
Absolutely. I think that, WikiLeaks is not only a pillar, I think it's the bedrock of our ability. You list all these independent journalists and outlets. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for WikiLeaks, none of us would be able to operate in a fundamental way. And, different journalists may rely on WikiLeaks documents to a different extent, but I know from my experience with distributed media, there's no way we would be able to report in the way that we do without WikiLeaks documents. So they are the rock on which all independent media stands. And they are the ones that, as you say, have given us that view into the actual goings on of power, as opposed to that. I like the image you used of a blindfold. That has been on for most of our history, especially, televised history.
I mean, really it is.
Go ahead.
When you think about it, they're veiling the truth to the public. They're masking it in a way that oh, we're acting in your best interests. Oh, it's not our fault. It's the fault of a foreign power. And they've been doing this strategy ad nauseum, you know, rinse and repeat for decades. And it's really escalated during my time, during my short lifetime on this earth. And I've seen how it has progressively gotten worse and worse. I mean, it's Jimmy Dore pointed it out, how during the 2016 election, instead of covering a candidate that was filling stadiums, okay, a candidate that was filling stadiums, that brought tens of thousands of people out in New York City just to come and watch him speak. Instead of covering his speeches, they were covering an empty podium.
And
And
angling the camera so it didn't look empty. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yes. That too. Yeah, that too. And it's just like, wow, man, you guys are really corrupt.
I remember that. And that's the thing, you know, the media blames Bernie Sanders voters for Trump being elected, but the media was covering nothing but Trump and ignoring the Democratic primary as it took place. And you mentioned New York and the hundreds of thousands of voters that were purged from the rolls in New York. And we didn't hear anything about that from the media either. You know, it was left to people like Jimmy Dore and independent media, Redacted Tonight, to cover that. So.
And I also like to add that they were very conveniently most of them were from the borough in which Bernie Sanders grew up in, Brooklyn.
That's incredible.
I don't know, guys. I don't know about you, but I tend not to believe in coincidences when it comes to what our government does. So that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I think we're about to hit the end of the hour. Thank you so much, Christian, for joining us. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. And I hope that in the next vigil, you can come back and speak with us again, because you really, you know, you've spoken about some of the essential driving kind of emotional factors that I hope not only speaks to the people that are already involved, but encourages others to feel empowered to get involved as well. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Liz, and thank you all for listening to me. You know, I'm just a guy. I'm just a dude from, you know, the New York City area that just cares. Really, that's all it comes down to. It comes down to, again, that golden rule. If I were in Julian's situation, I would want people fighting for me. And it's that belief that drives me forward to do what I'm doing now and to do what I will do in the future. So, guys, thank you again. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Liz, for having me on. And keep fighting.